Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to A Natural in Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about constant tension during contraction exercises, such as the standing dumbbell curl. Now, one of the big mistakes I used to see people do back in the day, and you know, I'm always open to people finding their own way, of course. You know, if something's working for you, I don't care. But one thing I did see over and over again were people who would relax the muscle at the bottom of the movement and then re-engage the muscle again in order to get full range of motion, or in order to lock out that elbow at the bottom when they're doing bicep curls. Now, the problem is with that is that you are disengaging the bicep, and then you are engaging the rotator cuff or the long head of the bicep in order to stabilize the shoulder. But what I found is that when you have to use the muscle to stabilize the shoulder, it will not be able to produce the same amount of force for the actual contraction to lift the weight. You won't be able to lift as much weight or be able to put as much intensity on the muscle to tear it down, because it's stuck doing another job, which is stabilizing the shoulder. Now, the reason why I know this very well is because when I dislocated my shoulder and tore the labrum, I noticed that my bicep wasn't able to engage as well anymore because it was too busy trying to stabilize the shoulder and keep it locked in the joint. Now, the blessing of this was that I discovered something that was necessary in order to get the optimal muscle contraction, and that is stabilizing the joint through which the muscle is contracting, right? So if the shoulder's moving all over the place when you're doing bicep curls, what you'll notice is that you'll lose some of that tension on the bicep, therefore losing some of the possible tearing down of that tissue in the bicep itself. Now, are you getting a workout in the rotator cuff and whatever? Yeah, you might be getting one there, but you're not necessarily isolating that muscle and really pushing it into failure when it comes down to contracting the bicep. So one way around this, and one way that I was incorporating by accident back in the day because I just felt my biceps more, was that when I was doing a standing dumbbell curl, I noticed that if I kept my arms bent at the bottom, because you know the last few degrees of extending the bicep, there's really no tension on there anyway. There's really no workload on the bicep at that point, not really. Most of it's about 30% of the way, and then the rest of the way up. That's where you feel most of the bicep. So what I found is that if I kept my arms bent while bicep curling, doing a standing bicep curl, and kept that tension on the bicep, I noticed that I could get a much stronger set in and make sure that the bicep was hitting failure, and that was giving me great bicep development. Of course, this principle has become accentuated now because when I'm doing bicep curls with a dislocating shoulder problem or a labral tear, I notice that it's much easier for me to lose that tension on the bicep because the shoulder is moving. And that's why some people say, oh, why are you doing your range of motion wrong? Why are you doing stuff wrong? Well, I have to work around this instability in the shoulder joint, and therefore I have to cater the exercises accordingly, right? So basically my point is, it's not that you always have to keep the arms bent when you're doing bicep curls. I'm not saying that, not totally. What I'm saying is that if you're doing an exercise that isn't accentuating the stretch of the muscle belly, such as the incline curl, then you have to be more conscious of how to keep the tension on that bicep, right? And that could be through keeping the arm bent a little bit more and then doing your contractions that way, doing your repetitions that way. But when I'm in an incline curl, you'll see that I'll relax the arms at the bottom. There's still a slight bend, but I'm not necessarily keeping the tension on the bicep as much because the stretch itself is actually putting tension on the bicep belly, You see, so the rules change a little bit when you are in a stretch type of exercise, when you are in an exercise that really does exploit the stretch of the muscle, right? So one thing I want to say is that there's not only one way to do something, but one thing that you need to do, and I think you're going to get great benefit from it, is if you concentrate on that constant tension contraction type of exercise from time to time, even if you're doing it lighter and just hitting massive failure with the exercise. The nice part is too, when you do constant tension, partial movements such as the bicep curl in a supremely contracted state, you can get away with using lighter weight but establish a massive amount of intensity. Oh yeah, leaves are killing it. Yeah. Yeah. For sale on my website at naturalglambodybuilding.com. Only $49.95 for 2 leaves. As you can see, they're very rare. There's not many of them around. You better order quick, otherwise you're going to miss out. Yeah, and I know they're called leaves, not leafs. But you know what? I'm gonna trademark, patent, and copyright Leafs. You know, like the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team? Kind of like that. Leafs. Mountain. And then from there you can do your heavy movements and relax the bottom a little bit. I never really recommend relaxing it altogether, but relaxing a little bit and then go through the exercise. But overall, I find you get much better benefit if you keep that muscle loaded. You keep a little bit of tension on there, no matter what. And depending on what type of exercise you're doing will depend on what type of load or what type of bend in the elbow you should keep, and constantly just keep contracting that arm and hit failure as fast as possible. Now, I talked about this in a video before about hitting failure as fast as possible. Is there a benefit to that? And I do think that is a form of stimulus that you can also get benefit from, which is why constant tension seems to work. It basically pushes the muscle to failure in the fastest possible way given a certain workload, and therefore it basically translates into intensity. And again, intensity does work. People can't just do perpetual volume or perpetual progressive overload and get the same results as if they do progressive overload and then from time to time push really deep into failure. I find combining this, creates that synergistic effect, therefore giving much better results. So yeah, I thought I'd just talk about this. So for me, with say standing dumbbell curls, having the arms bent, even like bent 30 degrees at the elbow and then up and down, right? That really seems to offer a certain type of intensity that you just don't get if you're relaxing at the bottom and then engaging the bicep again. It's just a totally different movement at that point, and you definitely will not hit the bicep brachii as much. Mountain. So yeah, I hope this helps you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. And if you need to get hold of me, just go to naturalglambodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now.